Hey Graham, so we are in September right now, and it's that time of the year where the planners and the brands want to know what they need to do to satisfy their last quarter push to maximize sales. So they've come back to us asking us if we could optimize their media plans for Q4 alone in order to see what is the best they can do with the media spend they have.
Okay, sure. So what we're going to run is what we often refer to as a Q4 optimization. And to do so, we're going to just take a step back and just try and understand how we would think about this. So by default, we provide users with a full year's worth of data. So it's set up to run a full year optimization. So if we want to create a Q4 optimization, we're going to have to tell the optimizer not that it's not allowed to move money unless it's in Q4. So we have to add to this file some constraints. And very simply, we can use the fixed column to apply those constraints. In a previous video, Shiva went through how you would apply a fix. The most important thing you need to remember when you apply a fix is that it can only be applied at the weekly level. So it's very important that you enter weekly here to make sure you're creating a weekly constraint. In this particular scenario, we're only interested where we want this fix to apply across all media, all campaigns, all brands. So we're going to leave all these fields blank because leaving them blank ensures that they apply to all the particular categories within them. So, but the one field that we won't leave blank is the period, because we want to be able to specify that we're only going to fix certain quarters, not all the quarters. So straightforward here, we're going to make sure before I even do that, I'm going to look at my time periods tab and notice that we already have default time periods specified, Q1 to Q4. So we can utilize these time period labels in our constraints. So what I'm going to do is, just for ease of use, just grab these three, copy them, go to my constraints tab, paste that, make sure all three constraints have weekly, and then I'm going to move to the fix column and just say fix for all of these constraints and then use. So let me just quickly summarize what I've just done here. I'm applying a weekly constraint across every channel, campaign, brand in my optimization, but only across Q1, Q2, and Q3. And for all those quarters, I'm just going to simply fix the spend at plan. And so in doing so, essentially by doing this, I'm subsequently telling the optimizer the only place it can move money around is in Q4, because that's the only quarter that's not fixed. It's kind of a bit learning curve, but once you get it, it becomes really quite powerful. So then I'm going to save this as well. Even before I save it, I'm going to make sure I change my description. Optimization, so Q4 optimization, keeping Q1 to Q3 fixed, just so that when I come back, I know what I was trying to do. And then I'm going to save this as a file. Save it here as a demo Q4. And then I'm going to navigate back to my app. And let's just run that file. And let's see what happens. So we'll just upload as we've seen. and run the optimization. Give it a second. Okay, the optimization's run. See, we've run our Q4 optimization where we tried to keep Q1 to Q3 fixed. So let's just go ahead and see if the optimization is honoring that constraint. So very quickly you can see some good signs. It looks like the optimization has chosen to spend in the same in each quarter as what is planned. So in other words, it's honoring that fix. It looks like it, at least. To even doubly confirm that it's working, we can move down to the weekly view, and we can see that every week in the first 3 quarters, what's planned is what is optimized. They match exactly until we get to Q4, and we can see that the optimizer has chosen to actually do quite a radically different spend to what is planned. It looks like in the 4th quarter at the moment. This particular case, most of the spend was happening in a week in December. The optimization, however, decided to spread it evenly. So there we have it. It's honoring the constraint. That's what we would call here at least a Q4 optimization.
So Graham, can I ask you a quick question? So on the input file, there was something called the optimization period, and I know we left it as CY16. In the previous video, you mentioned that if we switched out that value to, say, if we chose another value like Q1, Q2, or Q3 or Q4, and considering that we're only looking at Q4 now, can we use that to run the optimization without changing constraints?
So that's a really good question, and let me go through and I'll have a look and we'll discuss that. So we've now taken you through how you would run a Q4 optimization. I want to make it very clear that this is to run a Q4 optimization, we need to enforce those fixes. Simply changing the optimization period will not run a Q4 optimization in the sense that we've just discussed. It will simply run the same optimization as was happening by default. But, however, you bring up a good point. What changing this field will do is change the results that we see in the charts. So if I go back and I just have a look at what I saw in this particular optimization, you can see that we are being shown spends for all 4 quarters. And so my 4th quarter spend at the moment is 0.1 million, but my total yearly spend is 3 million. If, however, I wanted to see just the results for Q4, what I could do is go into my optimization and change this optimization period to Q4, save it, and then rerun it. Now you'll see that our totals have changed quite drastically. From before, if you can remember, our total budget's worth 3 million for both plan and optimal. Now they're 0.1, which not surprisingly matched what the Q4 spend was in our other examples. So if we move down here, you'll see this again. What's happening here is we're only displaying data within Q4. So this is really nice if you wanted to just get more granular, you want to just display results for a particular period. So that's how you would run a Q4 optimization.
Thanks, Graham.